Okay, it is Wednesday the 12th of April and I'm actually having to reshoot this segment of the video. I was recording a piece to camera yesterday, picture came out okay, but the audio just wasn't there, so I'm reshooting this now. Today's vlog, I know it's been a while since I've actually posted anything, but today's vlog is going to be about my PC. And in particular upgrading my PC. Now this is a long old story and it's kind of been building up over a while, but a little while ago my network attached storage drive decided to have a little bit of a drive fault and one of the drives clapped out. Now a NAS, network attached storage, is like a little computer full of hard drives that lives somewhere on your home network. I use mine for backing up data too, but also for storing all my movies on. And when you set up a NAS, you set a NAS up in typically a RAID array. As part of the RAID array, you have an amount of data redundancy. So if anything goes wrong to one of those drives, you can lose up to one drive and still rebuild all of your data. So you don't lose any data. Now, one of my drives went faulty. This was summer of last year, and it was probably during the move up, because I had the NAS in the back of the car, all that vibrations are never good for it, and for some reason it just didn't like it. But the NAS was replaced with another 1TB drive I had knocking around. I did have a spare one, luckily. Got the drive back up and running, but it put the seed in my head that sooner or later these drives are going to fail. Now, when you're building a network storage device, because these are 100% on, they're switched on and running 100% of the time, the drives don't spin down or go into power save mode. That's not how the NAS is designed. Modern ones that are designed for home environments, yes, but corporate ones, no. And if you put a conventional desktop drive into this NAS, you'll probably find it's going to be failing pretty quickly. Desktop drives are rated for 25% uptime, so if you're running that 100% of the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, that drive is going to wear out pretty fast. Now, conventional desktop drives will probably last you about 5 years, and the fact that these Seagate Barracudas have lasted me for over 5 years is an absolute miracle. It was just a matter of time before they failed. Now, typically when you do build a NAS, you buy NAS-specific drives. These are drives specially designed to last much, much longer and designed to cope with 100% runtime. But they're expensive. The NAS was full. 2.68 terabytes you'd think would last me a while. It hasn't. It's full of data backups. Now that I'm doing blog videos, it's full of those. It's full of my movie collection, downloaded program installers, all sorts of stuff. So, all of these drives were just, some of these were pulled out of the NAS. These are just sitting around, not doing anything, frankly just glorified paperweights. So rather than have them sitting around doing naught, I thought, well, my desktop PC getting a little bit old. I am using it a lot for this video editing, and I need to do as much of the video editing locally on the machine first, and then back it up to the NAS when I'm finished. My desktop PC's case could not take any more expansion. So the first order of business to get these drives into that machine would have been to expand the case. But that didn't go quite to plan. Now, I haven't built a PC since I was in my late teens, early 20s, basically since I was in uni. And the market's come on a lot since then. I'm not going down that route, but it's very easy to start chasing the little white rabbit. Very much like Alice, you kind of get a whiff of how things could be and how amazing it could, fun you can have doing it, and you get a bit carried away. And new case turned into new case with new power supply, because the old power supply wouldn't transplant over. The cables were too short to reach across the big case. New power supply turned into, well, you know, I'm upgrading it, I've got space now for a bigger cooler for the processor. So that turned into an air cooler. And then I realised that for another 20 quid I could get an all-in-one water cooler. You can see where this is going, can't you? But here's where that little white rabbit comes in. My old PC was a Intel i5. This was the second gen Intel. I believe that was the Sandy Bridge. That had a very early board or early chipset, so the motherboard didn't support much. It was a business machine. It wasn't supposed to be super powerful. Putting the motherboard in will give you more ability, more customization, and more features on the board. For example, USB 3, more SATA ports, more expansion ports, but the motherboard itself does not make your computer quicker. If you want a faster machine, you need a faster processor, faster RAM, and a better graphics card. So, as I mentioned in the little preamble earlier, this is a bit of a risk I'm taking with this. The seller has listed this 100% transparently. One of the CPU fan headers isn't working, so I need to switch that around in the BIOS and use another fan header monitoring the CPU temperature. And there's a damaged pin on the motherboard itself that doesn't affect the use of the machine. So that is a Asus Sabertooth motherboard. Now you can't see a lot because it's covered by this plastic armor, and that's what Asus call it. Now this has two purposes. First of all, it's to prevent dust flooding inside the board, clogging up the components, but also if you look at the section up here, this section is hollow. So you have the option of fitting a fan in the corner here, and that actually blows air across the VRAM chips and across the chokes to stop any, to prevent serious heat buildup. So you can see just here, there is a slight change in colour. That's because one of the gold pins is actually, I'll see if I can angle that to the light and you can see. But that's because one of the gold pins is actually missing from the board. Now, he assures me that that doesn't affect operation. God knows what it could be. It could be heat monitoring, it could be over voltage protection on one of the cores, it could be actual input output. There's no way of knowing. I mean, if I rang Intel, they probably wouldn't know either. Normally, if a pin is damaged on a Intel board, it's a death sentence for the board. I wish they actually went back to the old style where they actually had the pins on the chips. But, such is. I've disconnected the motherboard power supply here, which was routed down the side. The graphics card itself that was in here has been removed. The front mounted panel for USB power switch and that's been removed there. These were my SATA connectors, they've been removed. The memory's still on board, but I've taken off the cooler. So this is the all-in-one Cooler Master cooler that I've been using. Nice big copper block on the bottom, and you can see there a rather generous supply of thermal paste. So I'm not removing the rads. You can see that the rads are permanently mounted in the top, so they're not coming out. There's no point. But there we can see the processor is exposed, and it's just 6 screws to detach the motherboard, and then we can get swapped over. So I've got both boards side by side here so we can take a quick look at them. In both cases the I/O, the input-output ports are both on my left hand side here, but we can see a lot of commonalities. There is the processor socket. You've got your RAM on the side here. The old board supported 4 sticks or 2-channel DDR3. I've got the same on this board as well. You've got the motherboard power supply. You've got a couple of power connectors in the top to deliver power directly to the board and the PCI. You've got the capacitors here and the chokes. Now the chokes are visible here. This is to smooth out any power surges or dropouts that you may have from your power supply. It ensures a nice stable power delivery. On the Sabertooth they are massive and they're cooled. That's one of the reasons for the armor and the air cooling channels. Just to give you a more reliable power delivery when you're drawing a lot of power through the board, as you would be if you're using a high-end graphics card. This little silver heatsink here, this is the CMOS and the BIOS. This is just a little heat cooler for the onboard chip there. You can see how much bigger the one on the Sabertooth is. There's a lot more being done on board itself. Expansion bays, I only had the one PCI expansion slot here. On the Sabertooth we've got 3. I've got the cover on one of them there at the bottom there. The smaller PCI 1X, which is actually damaged. This is actually, the socket here got damaged when I was trying to run my graphics card and the USB expansion card, and a couple of PCIe 1 bays at the bottom. On this board there's much more scope for expansion and capability here.